Hey, just a quick heads up. Adam's audio sucks in this episode. He feels bad, and we fixed it for next time. Sorry about that, but enjoy anyway.
X-Men. Get it!
Good evening, everyone. Well, hold on. It's morning when you listen to this, or maybe you listen to it whatever time. I put it out in the morning. That's not how our intro goes. And welcome to another exciting episode of Battle of the Atom. This is the only X-Men podcast where we rank every X-Men story from A to Z.
I'm Adam.
And I'm Zach.
Hey, Zach.
Adam.
Yo,
Adam.
Yes.
You know how X-Men's weird sometimes?
Yeah, you know how it's like complicated and like impossible to explain sometimes?
You know how Xorn exists?
Oh boy. Are we talking about Xorn this week, Zach?
We're talking about Kayan Xorn. We're talking about Shen Xorn. We're talking about Magneto. We're talking about the, mutant power source where all of the mutant powers from M-Day went to. We're talking about a lot of stuff this episode.
Oh boy. Xorn is complicated, isn't he?
We're going to get into it, but I love this sweet star boy. I was actually talking to my wife. Earlier today, and I said, "Babe, you know about Xorn, right?" And she said, "No." And I said, "Are you sure?" She said, "No. Why would I know that?" Because she doesn't read comic books, which is fine, and I love her anyway, despite her massive flaws there. But I explained to her in the most simple terms what Zorn's deal was, being that he's a dude disguised as Magneto, disguised as himself. And she just looked at me and she took a beat. And she said, "Why do you read this stuff? It's very dumb." And I couldn't argue.
I really do have a very similar opinion about this, and I want to get into it, but I think we gotta start somewhere. So what's a good place for us to start talking about Xorn?
Well, the good place for us to start talking about Xorn is the place that Patreon supporter Alexander Zorak, which, dude, good last name, very good full name for an X-Men podcast about A to Z things. He went on over to patreon.com/XavierFiles, dropped a little bit in to say, "Hey guys, I'd like an episode, please and thank you." And then he suggested New X-Men 127, which is written by Grant Morrison with pencils by a personal favorite of mine, Jean-Paul Leon.
Yeah.
And inks by Bill Sienkiewicz.
So cool. Great combination, right?
Oh, and before we start, can we talk about the Frank Quitely cover?
Yeah, where he's kind of meditating with a cheeseburger.
Yeah, he's meditating while looking at a cheeseburger, that's all. You guys know what Xorn looks like, right? He's a leather daddy X-Man.
Yep.
With chains across his chest in the shape of an X. And this, skull steel helmet with all these bolts and stuff coming out of it with glowing blue eyes. Xorn's so dope. Xorn is so good.
It's a great character design. Really bold.
Also, it
fun.
probably isn't pronounced Xorn, but it should be Xorn.
Xorn.
Really,
right.
If he was authentically Chinese, which he both is and isn't in some sort of Schrodinger's box situation.
Yeah, I want to get into
that a little bit. But we're going to
bit.
call him Xorn.
Let's talk about the story first.
Yes. So, Adam, what happens in this story?
Well, there is a riot that needs to be quelled in Mutant Town, which Jean, Scott, and Xorn do. There's a little bit of interacting with Professor X. There's a little bit of interacting with a gentleman in what looks to be a Chinatown. And then there is sort of a mutant on the loose who turns out to be a little kid who just, kind of needs some medicine. And it's a very heartfelt story about Xorn interacting with this mom and her kid, but the kid is just he's too big. He's a real giant mutant.
And spoiler alert, the kid dies. The kid gets shot by a bunch of cops because he starts rampaging, trying to get medicine for his mom, who overdosed because she wanted to, I guess, murder-suicide her and her son because she didn't think that her son had, like, a life ahead of him.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole thing is told through Xorn writing a diary entry about it. And talking about his feelings on it, because to the reader at this point, Xorn had been locked up by the Chinese government for years and years until the X-Men rescued him.
Mm-hmm.
And he's still trying to understand mutants as a subculture. And it's very interesting, and it presents Xorn, who is a very peaceful character who very much cares about the sanctity of life and the beauty of, each individual's experience. And it has him, having to go through all the emotions of, seeing this life taken away because people hated and feared it. They didn't understand it.
Well,
and it's drawn really pretty by Jean-Paul Leon, whose moody art with Sienkiewicz's great inks really set the stage for this story.
Yeah, it's an absolutely amazing standalone issue. I think what you're talking about, though, highlights some of the issues that we should probably get into right now.
Oh, how in the grand scheme of things, and with the twist about Zorn's true identity, it doesn't make any sense. None of this issue does.
Yeah, that is hugely problematic. I think, you're speaking so highly of this character, how much you love this character, but it really is a sham that Morrison is putting on, because as most X fans know, Xorn here is not Xorn. He's Xornito.
Well, he also is Xorn, but that's a bigger Xorn-based problem.
Yeah, take a second to walk our listeners through that, because it is one of the more complicated things in X-Men continuity.
Okay, so this is going to be based on what readers know about Xorn. So Xorn first shows up, and he's a new mutant for the new X-Men, and that's just fine. He was locked in a Chinese prison for his whole life. Joins the X-Men. He's a healer. He heals people. He also has a star for a brain, which is one of those like Grant Morrison just throwaway lines that's perfect but means nothing.
Means he glows through his eye sockets.
It's true.
Mm-hmm.
Then he reveals that he's actually Magneto, who is high on Kick, which is a mutant bacteria that's also a living drug. And anyway, Kick's weird. Sublime's awesome. But anyway, it then later gets revealed that wasn't really Magneto. It was a guy named Kunyin Xorn, who, for reasons, did things that have just never been well explained. So that's pretty much Xorn.
But it's more... it's interesting because Morrison clearly intended... or at least he says he intended. How about I say that? Because it's definitely not clear.
Well, we have the tapes. We do have his original pitch where he does say that his whole thing is Magneto's going to infiltrate the X-Men. Yes.
Now, I just want to take a quick moment. I know I ranted about this on social media the other day, just to talk about how dumb an idea that is and how dumb a plan it is, if that is indeed what the plan is. And a lot of it just has to do with the fact that Xorn is a really authentic, genuine character, and switching him out for a Silver Age version of Magneto, it really doesn't make a lot of sense. We know that Magneto is recovering after Eve of Destruction. We know that he wants to recruit some people, but this is definitely the dumbest way he could do it, because it involves him really taking on the entire personality of a Chinese immigrant at this point, which is complicated further by, and I didn't notice this the first time I read this, but the Uyghur people have been in the news quite a bit lately because the Chinese government is trying to put massive numbers of Uyghurs into re-education camps in China right now. And it's pretty clear in this issue that he is supposed to come from that area, which is really interesting because the Uyghurs are known for being Islamic, but Xorn is Buddhist. He's interacting with a Chinese or a Uyghur immigrant in this Chinatown. So the depth of which Zorn's character is established only to be turned around to be Magneto, it's just, I don't know. It does not ring true for me.
It's overcomplicated. Now, I want to because there's a lot of nuance to this. I don't mind the idea of Magneto being secretly infiltrating the X-Men. I think his plan to do it as Xorn is overcomplicated and bad. And
yes.
Part of that is from Grant Morrison's writing style of, I just cut out all the boring parts. But upon further inspection, it doesn't work as well as a twist. And it's frustrating because Xorn is, like Adam said, such a well-developed to the point that it's a plot point in Planet X, the big Magneto story in New X-Men, that all of his kids are saying, we liked Xorn better. When's Xorn coming back? And I understand what Grant Morrison is trying to say to me, but that doesn't mean that my feelings are invalid, Grant.
And that is the basic problem. Xorn is more interesting than Silver Age Magneto. So when it comes down to the switch, it doesn't work. Yeah.
Anyway, taking this issue in a vacuum, it's really good. There's an argument to be made that this might be the best single issue of Grant Morrison's New X-Men run in a vacuum. With the larger context of the rest of his run and everything else that goes on with Xorn, maybe not.
Yeah, I mean, if you can just take this on its own without the context of Xorn's weirdness and the idea of Xornito, and just think about it as a standalone way for them to develop Xorn's character, it's absolutely beautiful. The art is amazing. The writing is great. It's just clear. It's concise, and I like it quite a bit. So where do you think it falls on our big list here?
So I think the only other Morrison story we have, which is shocking, is Riot at Xavier's, which is at number 6. And I think because of the issues with it outside of the vacuum, and because Riot at Xavier's is so good, this goes under that.
Yes, I agree.
I think this is very comparable to X-Men Legacy 300, that Forget-Me-Not story.
I was looking in the same place. I think that's a good place. We have a marquee writer. We have amazing marquee artists here. And it's just a great character study. So I'm with you on that.
Is it better or worse than X Club?
I think it's better than X Club on its own. It's just an absolutely gorgeous issue. It's very direct, and it's very poetic, even the way that it tells its story about Xorn. I don't know that it's better than the Chamber X-Men Icons mini that we reviewed recently.
Are you talking about the series that we willed onto Marvel Unlimited?
Yeah, that sort of appeared magically the same day our episode came out. So whoever's listening for Marvel Unlimited, thanks.
And also, how did you get the tapes before we released them?
They have psychics there, Zach. They have psychics. But I don't know that this is better than that. What do you think?
I think that's fair. I think this on a whole is better than X Club. And I think it does almost as interesting things as Chamber does. But because of some of the fact that if you just read this issue, it's great, but if you think about this issue in the context of even just the rest of the Morrison run, it doesn't make a lick of sense. I think that's its biggest issue. That's the issue with this issue.
But we're judging it by just taking it on its own merit, and I think it's really, really good.
So I think this fits in as our new number 25 on a list that now spans 151 stories.
Woohoo! Very good.
Yeah, it's good. Guys, Xorn's pretty cool. But then,
can we make him more complicated than he already is?
Well, what you could do, Adam, is you could, as Grant Morrison's run ends, start an Excalibur book that has nothing to do with Excalibur, except for the fact that Chris Claremont writes it, and then have on the last page Magneto show up, and then people say, what? Wasn't he Xorn, and didn't he just get his head cut off? And then you can also have Chuck the Truck, Chuck Austin, write his follow-up on Adjectiveless X-Men, which is what New X-Men turned into, in a story called Day of the Atom. Not like your birthday. Not like your birthday, Adam. This is ATOM, like our podcast.
Yeah, reading this does not feel happy like my birthday, because we're starting to introduce a lot of the plot lines here that eventually go into things like the Draco.
No. This is post Draco. You've not read Chuck Austin's run in just a solid chunk, have you? We've talked about this.
Okay, so what is this before? I'm getting it out of order. I'm sorry.
This is post Draco. So Chuck Austin had his Uncanny run that came after like that Poptopia run.
Right.
Which was running in parallel with the Morrison stuff. Then New X-Men ended. Morrison's run ended, Chuck did 2 issues of New X-Men that are not good. And then when they did the Reloaded event, that gave us such good stories as Astonishing X-Men and nothing else, Chuck Austin did Day of the Atom, which was his first story on Adjectiveless X-Men. He did that with artist Salvador La Roca.
Yeah, this is before we get to Academy X, right?
Nope. Also nope.
No? Because we're getting introduced right off the bat to...
This would be right at the same time as Academy X started.
Okay. All right, that makes sense.
Because they were doing the New Mutants run. They were doing a New Mutants run right before then, yeah.
Okay. Anyway, Xorn has a brother.
His name's Shen. Shen Xorn. Xorn, they beer fest Xorn. They legitimately beer fest him, saying, here's his identical twin brother, who's all the things you liked about Xorn, except for instead of a star for a brain, he has a black hole for a brain.
Yes, and if we're not careful, he's going to suck in all of China if we don't show up and have Havoc try and contain it with his amazing plasma powers and terrible costume design.
It's so bad.
Oh, it is ridiculously bad. It has all of these like weird, I don't even know what they are, lights in the visor, and then the 3 bands across his forehead are just, I don't know what's going on with this design. It's bad.
It's so bad because it's supposed to be a contemporary to the Leather Daddy X-Men costumes, which are very good. But then you got Havoc looking like that, and then you got Polaris looking like Morgana from Darkstalkers, and it's just the worst. Adam, I thought you were gone, and I thought you missed my very good Darkstalkers joke.
Oh no, I definitely heard that.
I'm glad you laughed, man. I was proud of it. Anyway.
But yeah, this does have some very, very strange things with the Immortals and the Collective Man, which is, I guess, the communist Chinese version of Multiple Men.
Yeah, Collective Man's done. Also, it's Morrigan, not Morgana. That's my B.
Oh, okay. Whoops.
Someone was going to call me out on it if I didn't correct it. But yes, they go to China and do stuff.
Yeah. I mean, that's about the sum of things, is they have to contain this new identical brother. And yeah, it's not great, as other Chuck Austin things aren't.
This is probably the best arc of Chuck Austin's run. Like, this is the one where there's the least offensive stuff. The fact that Xorn gets an identical twin brother is dumb. It's very dumb. But there's a couple of funny moments, like when Cyclops has reorganized all the teams and he's giving everyone team assignments. Everyone's fighting about it, and then they all walk into Cyclops' office, and he says, "I'm not changing the friggin' team assignments. Go be adults."
Yeah. And that definitely feels almost like a Jason Aaron Wolverine in the X-Men moment, which is really funny. Unfortunately, we're carrying on with a lot of Chuck Austin's long-running plot threads with Juggernaut and Havoc and Polaris.
Iceman being a huge jerk.
Yeah, and none of it really seems to ring true. I just don't find it enjoyable at all. So this serves to further complicate Xorn, and then also continue Chuck Austin weird badness.
Oh, you know that Bishop goes blind in this issue?
In this issue? Where'd that happen?
Or in this series? Yeah. A card
in
blows
this
up in his
series.
face. Or in this,
Oh
no,
my
in this
God.
run. You read it. It's just, it's oddly thrown into the background of it.
Huh.
Not Bishop. The other one. Gambit. That's his name.
Oh,
the
big-
card boy.
Big difference there. Yeah.
Introduced very similar times. They have less differences than you'd think.
That's true. They're just mortal enemies. But yes, Gambit is blinded. I'm sorry. But is that really all that interesting? It's not.
It's interesting when Gambit gets he's blind for like a year. And
Yeah.
he gets the ability to see the future in playing cards. As a secondary mutation, question mark?
Oh my goodness.
Chuck the Truck. Chuck, my boy. I'm so happy. I am so happy that you've got that Steven Universe money now, and you've got that you got that She-Ra thing going on, and it seems like you really figured out how to do things.
Mhm.
So, if you're listening, would love to talk to you. I have so many things to ask.
Would be nice. So yeah, this ain't great. I'm looking pretty low on the list. Where are you thinking?
Okay, so it's better than the Draco.
Yes.
Do we have any other Chuck stories on here?
No. I believe we've referred to some, but I don't think that we've actually reviewed any.
Is it better or worse than Poptopia?
I think it's probably better than Poptopia.
I think it's less interesting than Poptopia, but this is bad, but it's inoffensively bad. It's boring, which is a weird thing for Austin's run.
Yeah. But I think I think maybe Mechanics, which we reviewed recently, might actually be better than this, because it's overly clumsy and complex, but I think at least some things might work there. I'm not really sure what's working here.
Yeah, actually, I think you're 100% right. I was looking a little bit farther up the list. It's like, okay, where's my ceiling in case Adam's wanting to diss that story where Adam acts the extreme is back and things have never been deadlier. But no, I think you're absolutely right. This can be our new number not 36, 136 on this list. X-Men 157 through 160. I forget what the end of it is. It's 4 issues. 160. It's called Day of the Atom. It's not great.
Nope.
We're going to shift gears, though, to a good story.
Yeah. This
is
one's
the
really
first time
fun.
we're delving into it. We're delving into it, Adam. We've never done that before.
I don't think we have delved into the battle world, have we?
Yeah, no, we haven't delved into Battle World. Hey, do you know the thing about Battle World?
You can do whatever the heck you want, and it's awesome.
Yeah, Battle World is all that remains of all of the universe. It is the firmament of which all things lie, and Doom is the God King. He's God Emperor Doom. It is patrolled by Thors, who are a bunch of Thors. And it's very good. It's so good. This is from the 2015 Secret Wars series. And do you know what story we're gonna talk about?
We're going to talk about one that has some Xorn in it, which is E is for Extinction.
This is E is for Extinction. It is written by Chris Burnham and Dennis Culver with pencils and inks by Coach, Mr. Vertigo Comics himself, Ramon Villalobos.
Yes.
Dude,
which
I
is
love Ramon. Ramon's so good. Have you read Border
Yeah,
Town?
and it's such... I have not. No, is that good? I should check that out.
It just came out. The first issue just came out from Vertigo Comics.
This is new. Mm-hmm.
Ramon's art is so good in that. It's got some Chupacabra type activity in there. It's great.
Cool. Well, the art here is fantastic. It's a nice nod to Quitely, but it's still definitely of its own style, and it's perfectly suited for telling this story.
Well, what's nice about it is it's quietly-esque,
Mhm.
but it's very much its own thing. Because, like,
Yes.
everything in the plot, the art is cranked up to, like, 30. It goes way past where you expect things to be. It's not just a retread of Morrison's New X-Men. It is an expansion on those ideas, and an expansion on those ideas where you have a world without a continuing universe, so you can just screw up everything.
Well, and before we get too detailed into the story, I just want to compliment Marvel for coming up with an excuse, essentially, to let these miniseries happen. I realize that maybe from a financial perspective, from a business perspective, this might not have been the smartest thing to do. It also
Secret
might
Wars
not have
had
been
issues.
it also narratively makes absolutely no sense to have like battle worlds exist, and like that is the like you said, the sort of the continents that establish what the Secret World universe is after Doom saves the universe. However, some of the most fun Marvel comics of the last 10 years came out of those minis, and this is I really like this one. So do you want to just try and summarize it, because there's a lot happening in these 4 issues?
Okay, so you know how Morrison's New X-Men starts out with Charles Xavier putting a gun to his head and yelling at Cassandra Nova saying, "I will shoot. I will kill myself." And then he doesn't,
right.
because Cassandra Nova was living in his brain. Cassandra Nova is his sister, his psychic sister, who's his Mumandrai, whatever, some made up Shi'ar word, no one
Mumandrai?
cares.
Yeah.
Who is the
Whom he killed in utero.
Well, that was figurative, because she's more the manifestation of all of his evil, and that all men and women and children, everyone, must fight theirs when they are born. That's a Shi'ar thing. That's very real. Because Grant Morrison is perfect. Anyway, instead of him not shooting himself, he's holding 2 guns and shoots himself and blows out his brains in the blood splatter of an X. And then Magneto doesn't have to be Xorn, and he can start his own school of X-Men, who are the next generation of X-Men, with Glob Herman, who is great, Ernst, the Stepford Cuckoos, Beak, Angel Salvador. It's
Quentin.
Quentin Quire.
There's jokes about where the heck No Girl is.
Oh, because that becomes important, because, spoiler alert for later, actually no, we're going to hold on. No Girl becomes important, because we need to really go over the plot on this one, because it's nuts.
Yes.
So anyway.
Well, and our regular X-Men are kind of old and washed up.
Yeah, these are the new X-Men. Those are the classic X-Men.
Yes.
And it goes through this whole thing. The classic X-Men are like, I don't like this Magneto fella. We're going to do something about it. So old Cyclops, old Emma, and old Wolverine go break out Xorn, who is... Zorn's here, don't think about it.
Yes, not Zornito, Xorn.
They go to the school, find out through Emma's spy Quentin that Magneto has been keeping Jean in the Phoenix egg in his basement. And then it just... all hell breaks loose.
Oh,
because Magneto and Xorn fight, and then Magneto dies, and Quentin Quire's around, and then accidentally Quentin Quire's a spy, and then Beast has been possessed by John Sublime, and he's the Beast from the end of New X-Men, and he brings all the other beasts from all of the other different places of Battle World, and they all start fighting. And then it turns out that that Professor X has possessed Quentin Quire, but turns out No Girl is actually Cassandra Nova, and she possesses... Who does No Girl end up possessing? Jean Grey.
Isn't it?
Oh, no, no, yeah. No Girl is actually Cassandra Nova, who ends up possessing Phoenix-powered Jean Grey. So you have Cassandra Nova versus Xavier, but it's really Quentin Quire versus Jean Grey. And it just turns into this giant friggin' fight that is beautifully rendered by Mr. Vertigo Comics himself.
You also
And
forgot that we also have a couple more combos where Emma teams up with the Cuckoos to
they become
the
the
6
6
in
in
1.
1 in one of the best pages of X-Men history.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. And Xavier combines with Wolverine at the end of the story to become the real Weapon X.
I forgot he
Glorious.
body jumps again. This is only 4 issues. There's a lot of comics. You're getting your money's worth in this one, guys.
Yeah, but it's not a mess. It's tightly plotted. It's well scripted. The art is very, very clear, and it almost feels just like a natural extension of that Morrison era. It doesn't feel it's bananas. It's out there, but it also, works.
Yeah,
It's fun.
it's a what if to the highest extent, and this is like I really do wish. I really wish Marvel would do more standalone, like, DC style Elseworlds things where, hey, we're going to do a short run on this alternate universe. So we're just going to do stuff and be creative. And you can get so many cool things out of that. Like, I love all of the extensions of the ideas here.
Yeah, I think that's what's exciting about Marvel doing some upcoming what if issues, because I think they recognize that there is so much possibility when you don't have to necessarily worry about canon and continuity. And you can make a series like Worst X-Men Ever. You can make a series like Years of Future Past that are just playing around with things that have happened in the universe and really doing new things that you wouldn't necessarily be able to do with current continuity. This is a great example of that.
Yeah, this story is dope. Like, the colors are fantastic. The art's fantastic. The scripting is so tight. It is an amazingly fun story to read. It's probably my favorite thing from Secret Wars. Like, it's real good. There's so many great callbacks. There's a part where, Scott's reaching out to a Phoenix Jean, and instead of, as she does at the very end of New X-Men, where she says, "Live, Scott, live," she says, "Die, Scott, die," and then kills him. And it's so freaking good. It's a love letter to one of my favorite eras of X-Men. And it does so many cool things. Like, guys, check out these 4 issues. They're so cool. I love them so much.
Well, and I will also say that, as we've been tweeting, getting ready for this episode, we've at least I've definitely encountered some resistance on Morrison's New X-Men. People saying that they never liked it, that they never understood why it's so highly regarded. And I will say that if you're in that camp, you still might want to check this out, because it does some structural things that refer back to that era, but are doing fun things with them, much like Dennis Hopeless did when he went back to Riot in Xavier's in Teen Jean during Psych Wars. I think it's playing around with these things in fun ways that you may enjoy, even if that's not like your favorite era.
Yeah, this is a fun thing, and I really like it. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm a sucker for
awesome.
Villalobos' art. I really am. Like, he did a Nighthawk series for, is it Nighthawk? Whatever the Squadron Supreme boy is. I think Nighthawk. With with David Walker. And it is just fabulous. Like, he has such a, Nighthawk, I was right. He has such a unique and vibrant and engaging style. Like, he is the one to watch out for. You're either going to love his art or you're absolutely going to hate it. And it's fine. Everyone's wrong about something in their life. But
Well, the one thing you can't say that is bad, you got to at least respect what he's doing on the page. He's telling stories very, very successfully.
So this is a story that I really like. Adam, I want you to say what you think is a good starting point on this list for comparison, because I don't think that I am in a good state to say that.
Well, I think both of us hold this in pretty high esteem. I think it's done very well. And I think a place on the list right off the bat where we can see some comparison is the extension of another Battle World series, which was X-Men 92 at 34.
Yeah.
And we also have at 33 a what if story. What if Wolverine was Lord of the Vampires? Which I do think that this does embody the feeling of a what if book, and doing it in a very successful way without rushing through it in a single issue. It gets room to breathe. So I don't know if you were thinking that high on the list, but I think those are some good things to compare.
I think this is better. I think this is better than both of those. Like I've said, I love X-Men 92. I think that's the weakest story in X-Men 92. Mm-hmm. And I love What If Wolverine Was Lord of the Vampires. But hey, it's the spooky month, and there's a sequel to that, right?
Yeah. What if he was Lord of the Vampires during Inferno? We haven't covered that though, right? No,
not yet. But that combines two things that I remember from this podcast. Anyway, this is better than What If Wolverine Was Lord of the Vampires.
Yeah,
in Inferno or otherwise.
I'd be open to putting it above Morlocks, but I don't know if I'd be okay with going past Magic. What do you think about that?
I mean, look, if this was just me, and me talking about what books hit my exact aesthetic, this would probably go above the Brood Saga at number 16. That's why I wanted you to start this list, Adam.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't know if I would go that high. I admit this is like really, really well done. This
checks all of my boxes. Like if Maggot showed up would be the only way that this would be like more of a comic to hand and say, hey, Zach, this is probably what you want out of X-Men.
Yeah, it's weird in ways that like Ecstatic is weird, X-Club is weird, but it also is, like completely non-canonical. Not that really matters, but like, I don't know if you need this so much.
I would say it's probably objectively not as tight as like Astonishing X-Men Dangerous at 29. If I'm being real, it's probably not as tight as that. So I think that gives between Morlocks, which I personally think this is better than Morlocks, which is a fun story.
Okay. I'm okay with that. I'm open to that. And
I want to hear your arguments about Storm and Ileana and X Factor Endgame.
I feel like Magic is such an important story to the canon of X-Men, as is Endgame, strangely enough. That is oddly a very classic story that is factored into X-Men mythology very, very structurally. So I can see putting this above them. I think it has a lot of artistic merit. I think it's written very, very well. But I agree, it's not. I don't know if it's as polished as the Astonishing X-Men Dangerous. But my nostalgia factor would probably put Endgame ahead of this.
So here's the problem. You're a lot hotter on Endgame than I am, but I'm a lot hotter on this than you are. I hear you on the importance of Magic. I legitimately do. What I would say is Magic is an uneven story with uneven art.
Yeah,
where
I could see that.
I think this hits all the cylinders. So I think if we want to compromise, let's put it below Endgame, above Magic.
I'm okay with that. Let's do that.
I think. See, guys. We can get along in this crazy mixed up world because Adam and I just found a way to put E is for Extinction, not the one from Grant Morrison, which, oh my gosh, the actual Grant Morrison one in this are going to be a fun convo. But the Secret Wars E is for Extinction at number 31 on our big ol' X-Men list.
Nice. That did very well.
Yeah, that was a good showing. Now, Adam, where can people find you online if they want to just chat about your feelings about this good story?
Yeah, guys, if you want to come at me about Xorn and my feelings about why he doesn't work, please do. On Twitter at Arthur Stacy. And I've got new pages of the 4th issue of Bish and Jubes, Attack on the Mansion, coming out every X-Men Monday at adamrec.tumblr.com. And where can people find you, Zach?
Well, people can find me on XavierFiles.com. That's the website where this podcast is, and some other stuff. There's also the upcoming Guide to Exceptional Baking, that friend of the show Charlie Davis is putting together, that Adam and I both have pieces in. The Kickstarter should still be going on for that right now. So if you haven't yet, I can tell you that you want to read that rum cake recipe because it's very funny and also a good rum cake, and then also has good Adam Rec art. And I like that guy's art. It's very fun.
If you're listening to this, you're going to want it. I've seen enough of the artwork, and you're going to want a copy. It's going to be awesome.
Right. In other news, if you want to get a episode, of this podcast kind of crafted around one of your thoughts, if you want to make us talk about Xorn for another 40 minutes, you can be just like Alexander and go over to patreon.com/XavierFiles. If you drop in at the $2 level, we will do that thing where we make an episode for you. There's other levels too. If you want to give us more money, I mean, look, I won't say no. And I guess the stunned silence means neither will Adam.
No, we won't say no. I'm sorry. All right. I think I'm just a little stymied by how confusing Xorn is and how he ends up being the Phoenix at the end of he's For Extinction, Battle World. So
yeah, he's quite a boy. He's quite a boy. I forgot about that. He becomes a mix of the pure white and the black of Cassandra Nova to become Gray and the Phoenix.
Yes.
Because the whole thing leads up to a weird pun, and that's a good story.
I forgot about that before. Anyway, I think we survived the experience.
We did. Well, I mean, we'll see how we do when it comes to next week, where we are going to talk about times about the X-Men protecting and also serving. But until then, this has been Battle of the Atom, and we hope you survived the experience.
Get it!